Greetings and welcome to this segment on mental well-being with Dr. Charmain Jackman. My name is Novelette Demicato. I am the president of the My Member Wellness ERG group, and we are so excited that you are part of this conversation. We appreciate your commitment to being part of listening and learning about mental health and the Feeling Bot application that the My Member Wellness ERG will be launching in the month of May. Allow me to introduce Dr. Jackman. Dr. Jackman is a Harvard-trained licensed psychologist with over 25 years in the mental health field. She currently serves as the Dean of Health and Wellness at Boston Arts Academy, the only Boston public high school for visual and performing artists. Dr. Jackman is the founder and CEO of InnoPsych, Inc., an organization on a mission to change the face of therapy and to promote wellness and healing for people of color. InnoPsych, Inc. was awarded the 2019 Citizen Bank Small Business Community Champion Award for increasing access to therapy through its online Therapists of Color directory. As a change maker, Dr. Jackman is passionate about the intersection of psychology, mental health, and diversity and equity, and has created social impact initiatives that support community members and mental health professionals. She is the recipient of the 2020 American Psychological Association PLC Diversity Award. She loves to talk about mental health and has been featured in both print and TV medium outlets locally and internationally. Allow me to join in the conversation with Dr. Jackman on today's session, well-being, emotional well-being. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Jackman. And our first question for you is, what do you think of a person's well-being? What words or word come to mind to describe that for you?
First, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be part of this conversation. As you mentioned, I love speaking about mental health. So when I think about emotional well-being or well-being in general, I actually think of it through a holistic lens. And I use this wellness wheel, which captures 7 aspects of our emotional well-being or wellness. They include spiritual, financial, environmental, emotional, intellectual, physical, and social well-being. And those 7 components all play a critical part in how we feel, right? How we operate in our life, how we go about the way that we live and connect with other people. And if any one of those pieces is not right, is out of whack, it's very easy for people to have some impact on how they function. It may lead to stress, a feeling overwhelmed, burnout. So any aspect of that wheel, as I call it, those 7 wheels of wellness, if any one of those aspects is out of alignment, it can really impact how we interact and how we function in our daily life.
Yeah, I see the integration of, that holistic perspective of the 7 aspects of well-being. And from a spectrum of emotional well-being, what are the breadth and depth of that in your mind?
Yeah, sure. And so when I think about emotional health or emotional wealth, we really are thinking about how do you communicate with the people around you? How have you learned how to express your emotions? How do you actually express your emotions, particularly in those situations when you're feeling overwhelmed, right? That's kind of the test. When we're feeling overwhelmed, how are we navigating those difficult situations? And people may navigate those through unhealthy ways on one end or healthy ways, or somewhere in between, right? As we're on this process and on this journey about learning how we communicate and how we engage and how we tap into our own emotional well-being, understanding where we fall in that continuum and what are the strategies that we're using to help us move towards that healthy end is really important.
And it sounds like it's a quite personal assessment. So to dovetail on that in terms of the spectrum, could you offer an example of both end of the spectrum and then the middle in terms of,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Sure. So when I think about, we'll start with maybe on the unhealthy end. Um, Again, we're all living in very difficult situations. I think, as I would say, part of life is you have to problem solve. There's some problem or some challenge that you're going to face. And really, is it, how do you have the tools to navigate those? So someone on the unhealthy end, when they get stressed, when they get or are experiencing distress, they may react angrily, grumpily to the people around them. They may not show up for work because they're so impacted by the challenges that they're having. Um, they may also engage in unhealthy coping strategies. So maybe like abusing alcohol or drugs, right? Or maybe spending beyond their means, right? So in terms of tapping into financial pieces. They may be thinking about if they don't have a spiritual life, or if they have a spiritual life, they may be pulling away from that. So when you're on the unhealthy end, maybe there may be a lack of awareness, or there may be some awareness, but a lack of effort or motivation to engage in strategies that can help you move towards the other end. In terms of in the middle, I would say maybe their person is at a place where they recognize that they're really feeling overwhelmed, they're challenged, and they may be engaging in some behaviors to navigate that and to remediate that. But they may not be engaging in those behaviors or strategies consistently. And so sometimes they will respond well to the situation, and then other times they may fall on that unhealthy end. And then as I think about emotional well-being and what I try to practice and teach and coach my clients is that it's a daily practice, right? It's something you are engaged in, but it requires like consistency and I use the word practice. And so on the healthy end, you are understanding your emotional challenges, maybe understanding your emotional limitations. You may be engaging in strategies such as therapy or maybe yoga, or having some other outlets that allow you to kind of let go and release the things that are causing you to feel overwhelmed or stressed in your life. And you're developing a practice, which you're doing maybe on a daily basis to help you address those things in your life. Again, as I tell clients, like our lives are never a place where there are no challenges or difficult situations that we have to deal with. So it's really about when you are faced with those decisions or those difficult times, what are you using to help you navigate those? And what are the things that you're doing every day to help you maintain that sense of sanity or sense of in control of the things that you're dealing with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thanks for pointing out, we're not void of challenges, in this human existence.
You're not.
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
So when we are in that moment of challenge, and our emotions are charged and we're on the spectrum of, feeling angry or not acting in a way that is most constructive for us, describes a way an individual might seek treatment. What are some of the options for those moments?
Yeah. So, I tell people I'm a psychologist, so I am always going to recommend therapy, right? Because I think it's something that really benefits folks. But everybody isn't a talker, right? Traditional therapy relies on talk therapy. You have to come in, you have to build this relationship with a complete stranger, tell all your business, as we would say in my culture. And then, this person, and we all have different styles. So some therapists are more, they're there with you, they're reflecting with you. Some therapists are more passive, they're kind of just listening. And so it's really important to kind of figure out the style that works for you. So therapy is one aspect, I think, of getting in touch with how you're doing. But again, we talked about that wheel of wellness that includes 7 different strategies or different aspects of how our well-being. And so maybe tapping into some of those other ones might help you. So, and again, it might be dependent on where you are, right? So we have people who might be mildly stressed, but there may be people who might be in severe distress. And so depending on where you're at, some of these things may be helpful, but you may also need more depending if you're more severe. Mm-hmm. So for example, I tell people our minds and our bodies are intricately connected. So doing something for your body actually translate into helping your emotional well-being too. So whether it's exercise or walking or connecting with your environment, right? Sometimes it's your space. So when I'm stressed out, I know my space gets very cluttered. And one way to help me deal with that is to declutter, organize, right? For some people, it's getting outdoors and connecting with nature. So really, really requires for the individual to be in touch with the things that really makes them feel good, the things that bring you joy. And I think being able to tap into those and doing those on a consistent basis is really helpful. Again, that might help you to be a stage, depending on where you're at, to help you get back into functioning. But if someone who's at the severe end, they may need some other strategies like therapy or medication to help them get back on track.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for offering that menu of possibilities for people to enter. As we wrap up this first session, what is one strategy that you would offer our listeners as we think about this baseline conversation around emotional well-being and mental well-being, that a person might enter into the conversation either by seeking therapy or seeking a modality that would work for them?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is to really get in touch with your emotional well-being. Like how do you feel inside? A lot of us are, myself included, it's like our day-to-day life is very busy. We're stretched. We have little time to kind of tap into our inner voice and really like, what do I need in this moment? So part of it is really trying to start a practice of listening to your body and listening to your mind and your heart. Like, what's going on for me in this moment? So maybe taking a break during your day and just pause. How am I doing right now? Right? Asking ourselves those questions. Some people might use journaling to do that. Some people might use, talking into a phone. Some people might use a friend. Someone shared with me, Beyonce does video journals. So, however it is that you can connect to your inner voice is really, I think, the first step. Because even if you go to therapy, we're going to ask, what do you want to get from this process? Mm-hmm. So being able to understand what's going on for you and what you might need to feel better or to experience more success in your life. It starts with you.
Well, thank you so much. It does start with us and tapping into how we're feeling in the moment. And it's such a great question to pose to oneself. So thank you so much, Dr. Jackman, for this first session of our podcast. And stay tuned, listeners, for the next one that will be aired in a week.